change.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Avanzar Social Justice Podcast, Chat for Change. I am here today with some guests. My name is Sabrina Nicholson. To start, please introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'll go.
With Laurie.
So, hi, Sabrina. My name is Laurie Dutton. I'm the director for Stockton University's Women's Gender and Sexuality Center, and I'm also filling the role as interim director right now for the Counseling and Psychological Services. So, thanks for having me.
Okay, yes.
Hi, Sabrina. My name is Monique Corbitt. I am the Confidential Sexual Violence Advocate Coordinator here at Avanzar.
Hello, everyone. I'm Deborah Hamani. I am the Director of Social Justice Programming here at Avanzar.
Yes, well, today we are going to talk about the LGBTQIA plus community, and especially in reference to communities of color. So we have invited Laurie on here today, and she's going to help us and talk about some of the work that she is doing at Stockton University with the center. So, Laurie, first thing I wanted to ask you was, what brought you into this space?
Like here or at Stockton?
Yeah, and your position, not just here. I mean, somehow you like
Because I drove here.
Yeah.
Got lost.
You got lost.
It's all good. I found it.
Yes.
I found my way. So I have been an advocate for victims of power-based personal violence since 1997. I used to work as an advocate for the city of Alexandria, Virginia, first for the Office on Women, the police department, and then later for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And then when I left Virginia and I moved up to New Jersey, I started my counseling practice and started thinking, okay, well, do I want to do private practice? Do I want to get into an educational setting? And Stockton University had a position open for counseling services. So at the time, all of our advocacy services were actually part of counseling services at Stockton. So I applied. I was hired as the associate director for counseling services, and had counseling, psychological services, as well as advocacy, LGBT sensitivity training, such as Safe Zone, which we'll talk about in a little bit, under me. But as that, and that was around 2011. But what we realized was that LGBT issues, specifically transgender issues, sexual orientation issues, are not about illness, and so therefore they really shouldn't be in the counseling services area. So through a lot of discussion with administration, we started a task force. We formed that and realized that there was a significant need for a women's center, an LGBT center, and a victim advocacy center. So they said, well, we have this need, and we don't have a lot of space, and we don't have a lot of personnel, so we'll put them all together. And so that's how the Women's Gender and Sexuality Center was born. We're actually one of only 2 centers in the entire nation that handle all 3 areas of women's issues, LGBT issues, as well as power-based personal violence. So, for reference, Princeton has 3 separate offices for each of the areas. So, we stayed under counseling, and then we decided it was time. This was in the middle of COVID, where we all had a lot of time to think about a lot of things, that we were going to move the Women's Gender and Sexuality Center officially under the Dean of Students Office to make it more about prevention and intervention, but away from the wellness and illness model.
Okay. So great. So can you tell us about some of the initiatives that the center has?
Yeah, so first and foremost, if you've never been on Stockton's campus, we opened up a center, the actual center, December of 2019. And we were open for about 3 months, and then it got closed down because COVID took over our world. So we just recently rebooted and reopened everything. And if you come on into the center, which I encourage everyone to come visit, we have a lovely space that as soon as you walk in, you see what we call the Wall of Women. And it is people or women throughout history that have made profound changes in issues related to women's rights, LGBT rights. We have transgender individuals up on the wall. We have Harriet Tubman. We have Sally Ride. And so it's a really nice space to first look at, and what we notice is that the students say, wow, this place represents me. And that's what we were trying to achieve, that it doesn't matter what your race is, what your gender is, what your age is, all are welcome in the Women's Gender and Sexuality Center. So we have that space, and then you can go in and we have a beautiful lounge that you can go and you can just have conversations, coffee, watch TV, study, hang out with your friends. Just a nice, safe space. And I wasn't quite sure how everything was going to come together with three separate cultures coming together, but they've actually meshed really well. So I was very surprised and happy to see that. Some of the initiatives we do prevention and intervention in each of the three areas. So right now it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so we have a lot of prevention programming coming on for the month of April. We do different things outside of awareness months for safe zone training. We'll do prevention programming on that, which is LGBT cultural sensitivity training. We also provide a lot of advocacy. So for our students under Title IX, or if they come in and they disclose that they're a victim of sexual assault, dating violence, stalking, we provide advocacy for them through the school. And we kind of do it in hand with Avanzar. And we look at Avanzar works with the individual outside of the school, and then we work with that individual inside the school to help them through the Title IX process and get through that.
Okay, so I was talking to Monique earlier. Well, I was talking actually to Laurie. And you actually both work together for the advocacy piece.
Yes.
Okay.
How long now? For about 7-8 years, I think we've been doing it.
Yeah. When I first started, I've been with Avanzar going on 6 years. And my first I started in November, and that following spring break, I was thrown in. I wasn't training. I was no, actually I was training. That was my first training.
I think they threw you right.
Yeah, I think I did start training then. But yeah, it's been a journey, and it is some differences. And like Laurie did say, she and her team and her group, they're inside, and Donna and myself, we work on the outside. So it's very nice to collaborate because we don't know all the workings inside the school systems and inside the Title IX. Likewise for outside and the court systems and the legal system. So it all kind of really meshes very well.
Okay. I didn't know that the center had so many different umbrellas either. I was looking it up yesterday, and there seems to be a lot of different umbrellas. I know this is the conversation with Monique about gaps for sexual assault, and she did mention there was definitely a gap for LGBT. So how do you feel that the center is filling that gap?
So thank you for asking that, because one thing that has been a priority for us is to increase reporting among our students of color and in our LGBT community when it comes to power-based personal violence, because we're finding that basically there's a certain type of person that's coming in, or at least in the past, which would be young, white, heterosexual women coming in to report. And we knew that there were lots of cases out there that we weren't able to have them come in and talk to us. We wanted to find out why. So we ended up writing a grant, and it was the Opportunity Meets Innovation grant through the state of New Jersey. And we were awarded about $110,000 to help meet the goal of increasing reporting among our communities of color and our LGBT community.
Okay.
So actually, Deborah was there for one of our dinners. So we, as part of this grant, we're having about 12 dinners and discussions. And so we, because we're a public university, it's open to everyone, but we're really trying to target certain demographics to come in. And I don't know, Deborah, if you want to explain later what you were talking about with the dinner as well, but basically it's conversations revolving around different themes of power-based personal violence and rape culture and how to recognize what sexual assault is. This is in 2 weeks. We have someone coming from Canada named Jungle Flower, and she is a bisexual, she's BIPOC, bisexual person of color, who is coming in and doing a dramatization poetry about her own sexual assault and surviving it, and so we're really excited to have that.
Okay, that sounds good. So the dinners, how many have you had so far?
We have had 3 so far. We're trying to aim for 1 a month, and by attracting the students to come in, you have to feed them because that's very important. We did hire a program coordinator, Tiara Houston. She's an undergraduate. She is awesome. You should probably have her on here. She's a real go-getter. And she has done some amazing work with getting these dinners and discussions together. And then she also has been getting raffles together because students, if they don't come for dinner, they'll come for giveaways.
Okay.
So we're actually raffling off like an iPad. Actually, no, a MacBook.
Okay.
Yes. Right? You want to come now too,
Right?
And just trying to do everything that we can to make sure that people know that yes, you can come in, learn a couple things, and
Okay. So I know you mentioned that you were seeing that one demographic coming in. Has there been any explanations as to why that may be one demographic, why the other communities aren't coming in?
Well, at the time, I think it was the makeup of the staff. I mean, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
So hiring Tiara and really diversifying like our student workers has been instrumental in getting individuals to come out. We also have it's not a student club, it's like an affinity group called Together, or To Get Her. And it is for our women of color to come into the WGSC, and it used to be Dr. Anna Rodriguez was running it. I can't remember who's taken it over now. I think it's Shadia from Student Development, and they just do lots of amazing activities, and it's really shown a spike in having all sorts of students coming into the WGSC at this point.
Okay. I feel like I'm hearing this is big, that you're having people collect, you're being welcoming. Like, you're just taking initiative to be very welcoming so those communities can feel comfortable. That's awesome.
Absolutely. In fact, on our doors, when you come into the lounge, there's a huge sticker that we put up of all are welcome. And that's just the theme of the center and the lounge.
Okay. Safe zones. I was looking at the website, and feel free to jump in. I'm sorry, because I didn't know anything about the center. So when you start researching, and I'm like, well, what is this? I want to know what this is. And now I feel like I need to go to the center because I have not been there. Have you guys been there?
Not,
You have?
I don't think since.
I don't think you've
No.
seen the new
Okay.
one.
No, not the new one.
Because it's been mostly closed.
Yeah.
So, but I will say this: we have the best bathroom in the entire university.
Okay.
Even the president of the university said that. So,
Another nice thing.
if that doesn't draw you in, I don't know. What
It sounds beautiful. They have dinner. Give away stuff at dinner. I feel like I need to
Use
go.
bathroom, get a MacBook.
Listen.
I do
Okay.
have a question for Monique when it comes to training, and Laurie can actually jump in. What do you find challenging or difficult when you are training advocates when you start talking about issues that are specific to the LGBTQIA plus population?
I would say, I guess people aren't as educated as someone like myself or Laurie or you are on different subject matters. People that don't identify with that community may not necessarily know what proper pronouns to use or how to ask a person about what pronouns to use or just certain language being inclusive that many people or lay people, what we would normally say, aren't familiar with. So I think navigating that, it's definitely okay to correct people and just let them know what the right ways to go about asking or really just kind of letting that survivor, because all the work that I'm doing is training individuals about working with survivors and letting them lead the conversation and be the forefront, but just, mirroring their language. So don't assume. That's kind of what my theme is. Never assume that you know a gender that somebody may identify as, or never assume that, somebody wants to be called something when, just because they appear to be a certain way. So that is, I would say, the most challenging is kind of getting those. And I won't say people are necessarily at fault because everybody comes from different backgrounds. They might not have the knowledge, they might not know. It's not necessarily that they're trying to be rude or not polite, but they just need some education. So just navigating those conversations is what I've seen kind of come up the most within trainings.
I think that individuals, not so much the students these days. Students are very open and they just really are much more accepting than when I was in school. And that is amazing. And I think it's due to work from people like Monique, yourself, like just constantly getting the education out there. But there is like a certain construct that everyone comes into a training with. And that is that it's, a certain type of person being sexually assaulted. And then, Monique, I think you've done like role plays, like, okay, well, this is an LGBT person and suddenly they start using, different pronouns in a scenario and different, sexual orientations. And their eyes just get wide and they're just like, oh, wait, that can happen in the LGBT community as well. Like it's just not apparent to them. And then once they see it, like it opens up a whole new world.
Right. Do you think there is more sensitivity towards a cisgender person when it comes to being a survivor of sexual assault than it would be from someone from the LGBTQIA plus population?
So I actually teach when we talk about the norm. So outside of like when we talk about gender roles and gender stereotypes, we teach just the norm as far as services go, and the norm would typically be considered a heterosexual or cisgendered European ancestry person. And I teach specifically the further away from that type of person a survivor is, the more, the further away they are for services, or they're more marginalized if they don't fit into that box of being white, cisgender, things like that. So I definitely think,
There's more sense.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then when you add a male victim into the scenario, it really does, or a trans individual, it really takes on a whole new meaning to someone. And yeah, I don't think the sensitivity is quite there yet for those populations, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
I was reading about the safe zones that have been implemented at the center. What have you learned from implementing the safe zones?
So, Safe Zone is a training. It's an LGBT sensitivity training that we had the Rochester Gay Lights come in and teach about 30 of us back in 2016. And so it's not just a WGSC initiative. It's actually a Stockton University initiative.
Okay.
And the reason why we label it as for Safe Zone as Stockton University is because we don't want to have people be turned off in the sense, it wouldn't turn me off, but turned off in the sense of, oh, this is just a women's center initiative. I don't have to pay attention to it. Like, we want to make sure that people know, no, LGBT sensitivity issues pertaining to the LGBT community are all over campus, not just in the women's center. You're going to run into a trans person in the bathroom. What are you going to do if that's the case? We've had, unfortunately, situations of even staff members go into the women's room and see a trans person there and run out and be very upset and complain, and we have to explain to them, like, no, that's their right. Like, you get to choose in the state of New Jersey the bathroom that of your choice of what your gender is, of what you consider your gender to be. So Safe Zone training teaches us how to have those hard conversations with staff members, employees, students, if they're being, brought up on conduct charges because of such an instance that, they, I don't want to, we haven't had anybody like assaulted, but, if verbally assaulted.
Yeah.
But it's also about, a safe zone is about creating a safe space for our LGBT students. So that way they know, you don't have to just go to the Women's Gender and Sexuality Center. You can go to Professor So-and-so who has a sticker that says Safe Zone on it and know that they are an ally to the LGBT community. So that's really what it's about. There's another organization called Safe Spaces, and we're actually thinking about bringing them in for additional training so that we can be certified in both the Safe Zone and Safe Space.
Okay, that's awesome. So what can an ally, and I think you kind of answered half of my question earlier, but an ally, what can we learn to support the community? What's something that we need that you think we definitely need more training on?
So for me to be an ally is to not be afraid to ask questions that you don't know the answers to. Because it's really tough, right, to be an ally when you don't have all the information available to you. And then going from there, like, just showcasing that, you're not afraid to be asked those tough questions. If you don't know the answers, you'll get the answers. But for Stockton, for our students, like, it's really about creating a safe moment for the student to be able to talk to you about, how do I come out to my mom or dad? Should I come out to my parents? What is that going to mean? What happens? I just did, and now I'm homeless. And what should I do? And instead of casting judgment on, why are you homeless? Maybe you shouldn't have come out. Maybe you should rethink about your sexuality. That, we are providing the space to have that conversation and figure out how to keep them safe when their own support system is not helpful.
Okay.
What does being an ally mean to you?
Listening, like, I think what you just said, with not being afraid to ask those questions. Like I said earlier, never assume, asking those clarifying questions, because if we don't know, how can we support? We're just being ignorant, so to say. Specifically with survivors, we want to believe people. I know it sounds simple and it sounds like easy to do, but we want to believe people. We want to listen. We want to give safe spaces for people to have, and to be able to be present and hold that space with individuals. I just being present with people, no matter what really the issue is. So even if we're not talking about sexual assault, no matter what that crisis is for that individual at that time, we want to be a safe person for them, or we want to make them feel safe and make them feel heard and make them understand that their experiences are normal. Maybe not negative reactions, but what they're going through is normal, and their experience should be validated by us.
And being an ally isn't about having all the answers. A lot of it is just sitting there and being with the person. And I mean, I'm a counselor by trade, but we all have that, empathy to be able to just sit there and to hold somebody's hand who maybe was thrown out of their house and has nowhere to go and doesn't know, where they're going to get their next meal, to just be there with them to say, I'm here for you. And whatever you need, I'll be here for you as long as you need me to, because other people have cut them out of their life. Being an ally means being there for them through the toughest of times.
And it's difficult sometimes because of the society in which we live in, labels sometimes in a negative way kind of train us how to treat people or how to embrace or how not to embrace people. And I think one of the biggest things we can do, not just even as allies, but as human beings, is to look past the labeling, and see the individual as a human being, and I think it makes it a lot easier when I understand that the person sitting next to me, no matter what their sexual identity is, this is another human being, that deserves the respect, the honor, the love that all human beings, should be receiving, and so I think if we can learn how to, I'm not big on labels. Like, all right, I get it, I get it, so we can understand what we're talking about. But if you could really master not seeing the person through the label and seeing the person as a human being.
Tune in next time to our next episode of Chat for Change.
Okay.
Chat for Change.